for coming back. I'm Jen and this is Anthony, and this is the MMM Shenanigans channel. What we're going to be doing today is finally starting our first batch of wine.
Second batch.
Okay, second batch. We did mess up our first batch. It was still this Wine Expert kit that we're going to be using. Unfortunately, they ran out of the raspberry peach wine that we really wanted to try. Messed it up. 6 gallons down the drain. Don't want to talk about it. But we're going to be using the exotic fruit blend this time around. Alright, now let's get into this unboxing. The box itself is pretty small, but it fits so much. Very first thing on top, bag of liquid. We'll get into that in a minute. In between here is a pack of all the ingredients you're going to need to use. There is instructions along with this kit. Depending on which kit you get, might have different items to add to your wine. This time around is more of a sweet wine. We have seen more drier wines have oak chips to add. I don't believe this one's going to have that, unfortunately. And the one that takes up most of the bulk is going to be your juice pouch. This is going to be kind of difficult to remove. We found that out later, but have no fear. It's doable. Just be careful. We're going to leave this in the box until we need it.
Alright, so yeah, as you mentioned, you have the primary juice, which is the actual juice itself. The secondary pouch that she pulled out first actually is the flavoring at the end. Once the fermentation's been done, all the main sugars from the juice has been converted to alcohol. It'll add in a little bit of flavor, some sweetness to allow you to really taste the flavors, kind of more like a wine cooler, which, like I said, that's what we're starting off with just because it was the first thing we saw. We like the flavor. We're trying to kind of just start off slow and start off with something that we're pretty sure we're going to actually enjoy drinking, because obviously we don't want to make a wine that we're not even going to want. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so we laid down a drop cloth and we kind of changed just so we don't dirty our good clothes, because you are going to be working with some chemicals and some liquids that might stain or ruin them. We've already sanitized what we did, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the first step.
Now the first step is bentonite. The first step in the instructions tells you to sanitize, of course. We already did that. If you saw our previous video, you'll know what we're talking about. We already sanitized all the products, all the equipment that we're going to need to use right now. So starting with the bentonite, which is step 2. Now it says to mix the bentonite into about 2 cups of water. The first time we tried this, I used hot water and the bentonite still clumped up. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put it into hot water, about 4 cups of hot water, and mix it as we're stir it as we're pouring the water in, just to make sure that, you know, it works out well. So with the help of my wife, go ahead and pour some water in there. I just want to have some water done. Now I did sterilize this spoon as well. I didn't show that in the previous video of sterilizing the equipment because it's a spoon. Alright, I'm literally just going to open the packet and I'm going to stir it as I'm pouring. You don't want the bentonite to clump up is the problem. So as long as you're pouring it and stirring it, it'll be okay. Now you don't really need 2 people to do this. You can just pour the water in there by yourself and then just stir as you're pouring in the powder. I just figured it'd be easier since my wife is here to help out with that. And you want to stir to make sure it does completely dissolve everything, okay? Now it might take a little bit.
It's already looking way better than the first attempt. We had giant clumps. Right now, let's zoom you in to show you what it's looking like for us.
Now it does still seem to have some clumps. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure how much that matters. I'll be doing my research to see if that is a huge deal or not. Now, one thing I do know is that bentonite isn't actually required for winemaking. Not every wine you drink has been used or has bentonite used in it. So this isn't 100% necessary, but it does help to clear the wine of other stuff. It's a clearing agent. That's at least my understanding of it. So we're going to go ahead and continue from here. I'm going to go ahead and pour this into the primary fermenter. That's going to go ahead and just add that to the base. Now, from our wine pack, we're going to go ahead and pull out the flavor packet. We're not going to use that yet. That actually comes later on. The main one we're worried about is the big pack of juice. Now, the big pack of juice is going to be a bit of a pain to open. See how long it takes me. Oh, that was a little bit easier than last time. Be careful. Once you open it, there's no seal. So if you open it and you look like you release it by accident, it's going to spill everywhere. Now, it literally just tells you to pour all the contents into the primary fermenter. If there are 2 bags, it says if there's 2 bags, use the large one now, save the small one for later. That's the flavor packet. Alright, so what I would suggest doing is kind of lower the bag in there a little bit or even tilt it, but I'm just going to go ahead and pour it in. We have the drop cloth down here for a reason. We didn't mention it before, we did lay down a drop cloth to completely cover the floor all around us in case it does spill.
So right now it's smelling like cran juice.
It's just completely pure grape juice. Now, what I'm going to do in just a minute, it looks like there's actually some juice, maybe some debris in here actually. I want to make sure to get that out because even that might have some flavor. So I'll be pouring a little bit of water in here to shake it up in just a minute. It does mention after that, let's see, pour the contents of the juice base in the primary fermenter. So what we're going to do now is top it up. We've got the bentonite in there, mixed in with some water. We're going to put the juice into the fermenter. Now we're going to actually fill it up with water. Now you have 2 options. You can find 5-gallon jugs of water and fill them up with pure water. For my first time, or second video, second batch, I really just wanted to use pre-packaged 1-gallon jugs of water just to make sure that there's no impurities and to hopefully have it as successful as possible. I'm going to go ahead and start by having my lovely wife hold this while I pour a little bit of water in here to mix it up. We're really just shaking it up, making sure that all the extra stuff in there got mixed into the water, and then we're going to go ahead and pour that out into the jug. I want to make sure to get the other sides as well. All right, in it goes. All right, this is trash. Okay. All right, now we're going to go ahead and fill it up to the line. Now inside the bucket, there's actually a line in there for you to kind of see. Out here, you can't really see that. We're going to go ahead and fill that up to that line though, just to make sure that it gets full like the instructions tell us. So one of the good things about this container, by buying it with the wine kit, it gives you the levels of everything you need. It's all measured out for you, okay? It even tells you right here that 23 liters is that ridge on the inside. So that way you know exactly where to fill it to. I'm going to go ahead, pour my water in here. Alright, so fill up the water. The water is now at that ridge inside the bucket. It's the 23 liter mark. So now what we need to do is go ahead and stir it. Now again, everything here was sterilized, sanitized. So just going to take your spoon and stir the product. You want to make sure to get it stirred really well because you got to remember that bentonite with the water mixtures in there, you got the regular water, and then you have your grape juice. All that is not going to mix together right away. All right, next step, you need to take your hydrometer reading. We have our wine thief.
So this is going to be able to withdraw some of the wine by opening up, lifting that little knob, and really getting some wine in there.
So if you just stick it in, let it hit the bottom. It's going to allow the wine to fill upwards. Once you pick it back up, there it is. Now, as for the hydrometer, you're going to have the bigger end going first, slowly lower it. One thing they say to do is once the big part's inside the liquid, spin it to make sure any air bubbles get off of it. You don't want it to be having anything holding it up because then it gives you false readings. So what you're going to do now, you're going to take a look. So I got one right here. On the blue line, it's 1.00. So you work your way down, and it's right at about 1.046. From my understanding, it needs to be right at about 1.04. So that's fine. That's about what's to be expected.
Make sure to read the meniscus of the line of our wine. That way you get a most accurate reading on here.
All right, so we've now measured our wine. Now the good thing is you want to make sure to sterilize or sanitize the inside of the wine thief as well, because I mean that's all wine right there. So you want to be able to pour that back into your wine, your fermenter. Make sure not to drop your hydrometer in there. We don't want to fish that out. All right. Last step.
We're going to record our hydrometer reading on our instructions. You do have a little spot. That way you can later measure the alcohol and sugar content of your finished product.
All right, so the yeast that we have is wine yeast. This is what comes in the kit itself. Lots of different types of yeast, baker's yeast. This is specifically for wine. On the package, it tells you to rehydrate it. What that means is mixing it in water to kind of activate it. You don't actually have to do that. The instructions here, everything that we know tells us that because we're making wine, just tossing it in here, it's going to be fine. I've seen it many times. It's just follow the instructions here. I promise it'll be fine. I'm going to go ahead and tear that open. We're going to pour that in. Sprinkle it all across.
We've also read you don't need to stir in this yeast, so just leaving it on top of any bubbles that there might be on top of your wine is what's going to work best. The yeast is still going to be in contact with the liquid, and it's going to activate it, and all this yeast is going to start eating away at the sugars in our wine.
All right. Last but not least, bottle it up.
It smells like bread.
It smells like yeast. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and close up the lid. You gotta make sure it pops, babe. There you go. It's a very tight fit, so make sure to close it securely. You want it 100% closed, so no air or bacteria gets into it. All right.
All right, feels good.
Last thing we need is the Econo Lock. This is the Econo Lock. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but that's on purpose. You need to actually put it down into this hole so that way it fits snugly. Now the second step is to actually fill this with water. The reason for that is it creates a water barrier to stop other bacteria from getting into it. Now there is a fill line there, so what you'll do, you literally just pour water into the top until it's at the fill line. All right. Wrong cap. This goes on top of the Econo Lock. All right. So what's going to happen is as the yeast starts to eat the sugars, it's going to release the carbon dioxide, the gases, and everything. That's going to cause that little capsule in there to be raised from the water, allowing the oxygen to go up and back out. It's going to allow the air to escape, but nothing to come back inside because of the pressure that's being released in here. So you'll actually start to see that popping up over the next week or two or 3 or 4, however long it actually takes for this entire product to be made. Now, we really just wait. Next step is in a week or 2, and then we'll go from there.
We went ahead and locked this all up. It's ready to sit here for about a week or 2. Our instructions say 14 days. A lot of things we've read say a week, but we want to really pay attention to the temperature that this is going to stay at. Top temperature range is going to be 68 degrees to 77 degrees. And as long as it doesn't fall outside of that range, we should be good. I want to say top prime temperature would be 70 degrees. And we're going to go ahead and open this up whenever that's ready to go ahead and transfer it to the next container after that.
Alright, so that's all for today. As long as you keep it between 70 to 75 degrees, should be good. As long as you followed all the instructions in here. Remember, this is not an instructional video. If you're learning, great, that's what's important. I'm following the instructions myself, step by step. So as long as you followed everything over here, you should be good. Now, we're gonna let this sit for, like the instructions say, about 14 days. Now, I'm gonna do some research online because I wanna make sure that this isn't missing anything. I realize these are the instructions, but I just wanna make sure that if there is another step, I don't wanna miss it. So I'm gonna be doing my own research. Hopefully we'll see y'all soon. This video should be posting within a week of the sanitizing video. So if you haven't seen that video already, make sure to go watch that video because that's one of the most important parts. If you don't sanitize your product, if you don't sanitize your equipment, it's gonna mess up your product.
Ruin your batch.
You don't want that. It's a waste of money, a waste of time and effort, and you just don't want that. But once again, I want to thank y'all for joining us at M&M's Shenanigans, and we hope to see y'all soon. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to click that subscribe button, like all our videos, and also click the little bell icon so you'll be notified about our next step. And you can find us on Facebook at MMM_S Shenanigans, or by clicking the link down below. We'll go ahead and try to post as much progress as we can. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.